Hello everyone. Today, I want to give you a quick overview of a few features that are included in the Dynamics 365 Customer Insights 2020 Release Wave 1. Key investment areas for this release are connectors and Microsoft Teams add-ins so that you can directly access customer profiles from Teams. Enhancements to segments and measures to make them easier to manage. Ingestion improvements including incremental ingestion and near real-time data ingestion so that your customer profiles stay current. Predictive insights so that you can enrich your customer profiles by predicting values based on similar records. And finally, data enrichment that extrapolates interests and affinity based on demographic attributes in your existing customer profiles. Well, let's see how this all works. Let's start at the home page and go to the Export Destinations page that shows all of the connectors that we have with this release. Well, we'll click on Teams and go to the landing page where we add that connector. From Teams, we can connect to the Customer Insights bot and have a conversation. We'll start by typing help. And we get a response back that lists the commands that we can use to talk to the bot. Now let's say we're a store employee and we're talking with Rosalie, so we can search for Rosalie. We get a list of all the Rosalies in the system. We click on the right one, and we get back her customer profile, including that she should be offered a discount. To compare, let's go back to Dynamics 365 Customer Insights and search for Rosalie again. And we see the same information, but this time along with her timeline and interests. Now we've seen this new way of accessing customer data, so let's take a look at how we can manage the customer data set. We've made a number of improvements to segments. You've always been able to create segments from queries. For example, here's a segment called City Customers that's defined by several cities. Now before this release, you would have needed to define this single segment with a set of filters. Something like City is Seattle, or City is Portland, or City is whatever. Well, now you can use a single filter. Select City, and then select Is Any Of. And finally, we select several cities. So we have one filter instead of three filters connected by OR statements. Many of our customers have 20 to 30 segments and are finding it difficult to sort through them and find the correct one. So here's the new segments dashboard. You can sort these. For example, here are the ones relating to Xbox. Or you can sort by any of these columns. You can create new segments, either from a blank one or from an existing segment. Refresh all of the segments, or just select some to refresh. Now at an individual level, when you hover over a segment, you now have the immediate option to edit or refresh just that one segment, which is a lot faster. And you have an entire list of additional available tasks for each segment. If you have a segment that's been set to refresh every day or so, maybe a customer list or a seasonal event, you can deactivate it here, which stops the refreshes. Or you can schedule a deactivation for a date and time just after the event. And then when your next seasonal event happens, you can reactivate the segment to restart the scheduled refreshes. You can also see data on your segments, including the changes to a segment in the last 7 days with a graphic showing the trend. So you don't need to open a segment to see what's happening to it. Now in measures, we've created the same type of dashboard, and you have very similar options here. In addition to improving the refresh of segments, we've also made improvements to the refresh of data. We've added incremental data refresh that has a couple of advantages. These include faster refreshes as only the changed data is refreshed, increased reliability as we're moving smaller data sets with shorter connections that reduce the risk of interruptions. And this also reduces the consumption of compute resources. This works on any data set with a date-time field indicating when rows of data were last updated. Let's look at how to implement this. We go to Data, then Data Sources, and then click on the Add a Data Source. Import, give it a name. We'll select the Azure SQL database. Connect, Now to set it up to use, we're looking for a date-time field that we can use to identify new data. So we'll use contact ID as the primary key and update it on to identify new data. And we'll set the refresh for 5 days. And here you can see that the new data source is being added. With incremental refresh, Customer Insights loads data in batches. So time-sensitive data from your CRM or ERP systems may be a couple hours out of date. Here we have a Customer Insights dashboard for Rosalie again. And with this release, we're introducing real-time updates, where we're updating any of the fields on the left and any of the activities in real time. Real time means that you send data to the CI API or use a Power Platform connector and collect data from your systems as it's updated. Let's see how this works. We'll open a commerce system, and we have Rosalie here. She's received a coupon for an Xbox, so she shows up to the store and buys it. We click Purchase Complete and send the signal to our commerce system or CRM. At the same time, you're sending a real-time signal to Customer Insights. And there you are. It's now part of her timeline. Rosalie's profile data is handled in much the same way. So we've seen how to update data, but what can you do when data is missing? Well, Dynamics 365 Customer Insights can create predictions to enrich your data sets and predict the missing information. We're going to create predictions using 2 methods here. We'll start at entities. This customer entity was created by the Unify process from a couple of data sources. We'll go to fields where there's now a summary option with this release. That lets us see the type of data, in this case Boolean, how many records have each option, and we see that about 40% are empty of data. So we'll select the Predict Missing Values option. We name our new entity that will be filled with our predictions, select our data, and click Done. And we find the latest predictions from this list of predictions. Here we see the results, which other fields were the top influencers in this prediction, the performance as a measure of how accurate the predictions are. And if you click on this link, it takes you to the AI Builder documentation that explains how this is calculated and how to use it when deciding whether to use a prediction. Your industry and the type of data that you're predicting will influence the level that you choose as your limit. And we see that we've actually created several fields. The prediction, the likelihood that this individual prediction is correct, and the explanation, which is the fields that have contributed the most to this individual prediction. We can also take a field and automatically create a prediction. So let's take this field and create a segment. And it asks us if we'd like to create a prediction for those rows where we don't have data in this field. And from here on, it works the same as you just saw. Think about what you could do with this level of data enhancement. Many companies are finding that their customer data sets are too sparse to be useful when it comes to generating customer insights. Now, it's hard to develop useful segments or predictions when you don't have enough data in your customer profiles. With data enrichment, you can add fields to your existing profiles and extrapolate based on shared demographic attributes from massive customer data sets that are similar to your existing customer profiles. Let's take a look at how we can enrich our customer profiles with the customer's affinity for some brands. We start by selecting either the industry or the brands that we're interested in. Now, if we choose an industry from the list, we automatically get the brands that are in that industry. Or we can choose the brands that we're interested across all of the industries. So let's look for a couple of video games. And notice that we show the industries of the brands. This helps us make sure that we have the right brands and not something from another industry. Now, we're also looking for people who are interested in gift cards and coupons. So next, we'll map the fields that we want to compare against. Well, for this, we'll use age, gender, and location. So now we find out by leveraging Microsoft's data what the affinity is between these attributes and the brands that we've selected. Well, here's our results. We see how many of our profiles were enriched in total. And we also see how many profiles we enriched for each category, and how many profiles we enriched for each brand. Now, to dive deeper, we go to entities, where we see the two entities we've created in our dataset, one for brand affinity and one for interest affinity. We'll dive into the brand affinity, and we see the data fields that we added. One is the brand, and we've also created a score on the scale of 0 to 100 that tells you how strong that affinity is for that brand for this customer profile's demographic segment. And the affinity confidence, also from 0 to 100, that tells you how confident we are in the affinity. Now, this is an approximate measure of how many factors influence the affinity score. Now, if just one measure, say age, influence a score, we get a low confidence score. But if all of the factors influence a score, we get a very high confidence score. And the value of these scores is that you can then set thresholds when looking for customers with an affinity for the brand. This is extremely useful when you're doing a marketing campaign, creating segments and measures, or making predictions. But also when we look at a single customer profile, and we see the affinity scores here on the right. So data enrichment isn't just for marketing. Now your sales and support teams, who may load this profile during a call, have access to this affinity data to help them identify cross and upsell opportunities. As you've seen, the 2020 Release Wave 1 update to Dynamics 365 Customer Insights provides you with connectors and Teams add-ins so that you can directly access profiles from Teams. Enhancements to segments and measures to make them easier to manage. Ingestion improvements, including incremental ingestion and near real-time data ingestion, so your customer profile data stays current. Predictive insights, so that you can enrich your customer profiles by predicting values based on similar records. And finally, data enrichment that extrapolates interest and affinity based on demographic attributes in your existing customer profiles. Well, for more information, use these specific links or go to the Release Overview Guide.